Have you ever noticed how, after you hit your 70s, the rhythm of your social life starts to change? It's not just about getting tired or having health challenges. It's something deeper, something many people don't talk about. Suddenly, those visits to friends and family that once felt like a joy can start to feel like a chore. You might find yourself saying, "I just don't feel like going anymore," and that's okay. There's a quiet wisdom behind this shift. It's not about bitterness or loneliness. It's about waking up to what truly matters in this stage of life. After decades of showing up, pleasing others, and following routines, many discover the importance of protecting their emotional and physical energy. They begin to realize that not every visit is worth the time or the toll it takes on their spirit. This change isn't a sign of giving up, it's a sign of growth. It's about choosing peace over obligation and quality over quantity. If you've ever wondered why your circle feels smaller or why you crave quiet mornings over noisy gatherings, you're not alone. In this video, we'll explore 6 powerful reasons why many people stop visiting others after 70, and why that's a beautiful part of aging. If you are not subscribed, subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. If you like the topic of this video, please comment 1. If you don't, please comment 0 to let me know how I can improve and make better videos for you. Now, let's begin. Reason 1. Emotional boundaries. As the years go by and the candles on the birthday cake multiply, something subtle but profound begins to shift inside us. It isn't just the body that feels a little slower or the calendar that fills up less quickly. It's the way our hearts, minds, and spirits relate to the world around us. One of the most surprising awakenings that comes after 70 is the realization of just how much emotional energy every social interaction requires. Emotional energy of visits, some people call it, but it's more than that. It's the silent work your heart does, listening, caring, holding space for others, even when no one seems to notice. There was a time when going out to see friends or family was almost automatic. You'd step out the door, make the drive, and settle in for an afternoon of conversation, laughter, or maybe even a few old arguments. But as you grow older, you begin to sense a change. Feeling emotionally drained, not refreshed, becomes more common than not. Where you once felt uplifted after visiting others, you might now return home carrying a heavy, invisible load. Sometimes, it's the stories that never change, the complaints that circle the room like restless spirits, or the subtle tension that never quite disappears. These moments, which once seemed trivial, now linger with you for hours or even days. What's more, not every interaction is good for your spirit. It's a truth that's so simple and yet so hard to admit, especially after a lifetime spent being polite, reliable, and present. When you're younger, you might have powered through uncomfortable visits out of duty or habit. Maybe you felt it was your job to keep family ties strong, to be there for others, to hold up the roof of the house when tempers flared or old wounds reopened. But the wisdom of age is learning when to set that burden down. It's realizing that your peace matters as much as anyone else's. Protecting emotional space as a form of survival, that's something you don't often hear in greeting cards or birthday speeches, but it's the quiet reality for many. After a certain age, you start to see just how valuable your inner calm has become. Maybe it's because the noise of the world has gotten louder, or maybe it's simply that you've finally listened to the quiet voice inside that says, "Enough is enough." You learn that it isn't rude or selfish to choose peace. It's one of the bravest acts of self-care you can do, especially when you've spent decades putting other people's needs ahead of your own. You also begin being selective in relationships. The circle of people you spend time with gets smaller, not because you're withdrawing from the world, but because you're choosing where to invest your heart. It's a kind of gentle sorting, a way of letting go of relationships that have become one-sided, heavy, or simply unfulfilling. For years, you might have attended gatherings out of obligation, listening to others recount the same grievances or expecting you to play the role you always have. But now, there's a quiet strength in saying, "No, thank you." You realize that time is too precious, and your emotional well-being too valuable to give away to those who only want you as an audience, not a companion. A big part of this process is knowing when a visit is no longer mutual. There's a certain sadness in recognizing that some relationships have faded, not because of a fight, but because the connection just isn't there anymore. You feel it in the way someone's eyes slide over you during a conversation, or in how they glance at their phone when you're speaking. There's a difference between being wanted and being expected. In your heart, you know when you're simply filling a chair rather than being cherished. And that feeling, once it's recognized, is almost impossible to ignore. Age brings the gift of honesty, the freedom to step back from spaces where you're not seen or valued. Choosing to stop showing up where you are not truly valued is an act of courage, not resentment. It's about saying yes to yourself after so many years of saying yes to everyone else. You would never force yourself to walk 5 miles on a twisted ankle. Why force yourself into conversations that twist your heart, leave you anxious, or drain your spirit? For many, this realization comes quietly. There's no dramatic moment or confrontation, just a gentle withdrawal, a shift in priorities, a slow turning inward. Friends or family might not understand at first. They might wonder why you don't visit as often, or why you seem quieter during gatherings. But inside, you know you are honoring something sacred, your emotional well-being. It's easy to misunderstand this shift as a sign of decline, or even bitterness. But the truth is, it's a sign of psychological growth, a kind of wisdom that can only be earned by living through decades of life's joys and heartbreaks. You learn to recognize what truly nourishes your soul, and what doesn't. You let go of the need to keep up appearances, to be the good son, the perfect grandmother, or the peacemaker. You realize that, after 70, there's no prize for exhaustion, only the quiet satisfaction of living honestly with yourself. Sometimes, protecting your emotional boundaries means disappointing others, or hearing them say you've changed. And you have. The cost of being everything for everyone becomes too high, and the rewards of inner peace become too sweet to give up. You begin to fill your days with people and activities that bring genuine joy, not just routine or expectation. A coffee with a close friend who listens. A walk in the park alone, feeling the sun on your face. A phone call with someone who asks how you're doing, and waits to hear the answer. In these moments, you begin to understand that the greatest gift of aging is permission. Permission to rest. Permission to say no. Permission to cherish your own needs. You stop chasing after the approval or attention that never satisfied you anyway. And you discover that solitude, far from being lonely, is often where you feel most at home. The world might not always celebrate these choices. In a culture that prizes busyness and endless connection, stepping back can look like surrender. But you know the truth. With every year, your ability to choose what's good for your heart grows stronger. You realize that the boundaries you draw aren't walls to keep others out. They're invitations to a life of deeper honesty, clarity, and peace. If you find yourself visiting less often, or choosing quiet over crowds, remember, you are not alone. This is the wisdom of a lifetime at work, guiding you toward a new kind of freedom, one where every moment, every visit, every conversation is a choice, not a chore. And that is something to celebrate. Reason 2. Time revaluation. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 1 below to let me know that you are still here with me. There's something almost magical, and a little startling, about the way time shifts as you get older. In your younger days, time felt limitless, as if the years ahead stretched out in a wide, open landscape. You gave your hours freely to family dinners, community events, errands, and endless phone calls that seemed to go on forever. There was always tomorrow, next week, or next year. But as you cross into your 70s, that landscape changes. The horizon draws closer, and suddenly each day feels more precious, more personal. This is the beginning of time is no longer endless or freely spent. It's not that you become obsessed with the ticking clock. It's that you develop a new respect for the hours left, however many or few they may be. This realization comes quietly. Maybe it happens on a slow morning, sipping coffee by the window and watching the sunlight move across the kitchen table. Or maybe it dawns on you as you sit in another long, repetitive conversation, thinking of all the things you'd rather be doing. What once felt like obligations now feel like choices. Every moment given must feel worth it emotionally. You start to weigh each commitment, each social event, against a simple but powerful question. Is this how I want to spend my time? It isn't selfishness that guides this question. It's wisdom. You have seen enough of life to know that time is the one resource you can never earn back. So you begin prioritizing healing, rest, and personal joy. You start to say yes to what lifts your spirit and no to what leaves you drained. Maybe you choose a quiet afternoon tending your garden over another family gathering filled with the same old arguments. Maybe you turn down a dinner invitation because you'd rather curl up with a good book or listen to music that brings you peace. There is no guilt in this. It's an act of self-care, born from understanding your worth. As time becomes more valuable, so does the company you keep. You realize the importance of choosing meaningful connections over superficial ones. Old patterns fall away. You stop feeling pressured to keep up with every acquaintance or attend every event out of habit. Instead, you gravitate toward people who see you, hear you, and bring you comfort. You learn that a single heartfelt conversation can be more nourishing than a dozen polite exchanges. The joy of connecting deeply, even if it's only with a handful of people, far outweighs the need for constant socializing. Consider Lorraine, a woman of 76 who, for years, drove 3 hours each month to visit her cousin in another state. These visits were once a highlight, filled with laughter, shared memories, and a sense of family. But over time, things changed. The drive felt longer, the conversations more repetitive, and the visits left her feeling tired rather than fulfilled. One afternoon, as she pulled into her driveway after another exhausting trip, she asked herself, "Is this truly what I want?" That was the day she permitted herself to choose differently. She decided to spend her time sketching by the lake near her home, a simple act that brought her immense joy. The hours she once traded out of obligation were now hers to savor. Lorraine's story is not uncommon. As we age, old routines can become burdens rather than blessings. It takes courage to admit this and even more courage to change it. Part of the gift of growing older is learning. You can curate your life like an art piece. Each day is a brushstroke, each choice a color. You start to see that you have the right and the responsibility to design your life around what matters most to you. For some, that means embracing new hobbies, learning something they never had time for, or simply taking more walks in nature. For others, it means nurturing a small circle of true friends or spending quiet evenings reminiscing with a loved one. Whatever it looks like, the common thread is intention. Your days are no longer filled by default, but by deliberate, heartfelt choice. Learning to say no without guilt becomes a vital skill. For decades, you might have agreed to every request, every invitation, thinking that saying yes was the polite thing to do. Now, you see that every yes to others is a no to yourself. This isn't about becoming isolated or withdrawn. It's about finding balance. You discover that your energy is finite and that protecting it allows you to show up more fully for the things and people that truly matter. You also find freedom in the small, everyday pleasures that might have gone unnoticed in the busier seasons of life. Watching the birds at the feeder, lingering over a second cup of coffee, or listening to an old favorite song can become cherished rituals. Small moments become treasures. You realize that you don't have to fill your calendar to feel fulfilled. Emptier days often make space for the memories, dreams, and creativity that bring you genuine contentment. This new way of valuing time doesn't always make sense to others. Family or friends may not understand why you turn down invitations or why you've stopped making those long, obligatory trips. Sometimes they worry or even feel hurt. But deep down, you know that your choices are not rejections, they're acts of self-respect. You are teaching others, gently but firmly, that your time is valuable, too. As you grow older, there's a growing comfort in your own company. Enjoying solitude and self-reflection is no longer something to fear, but something to celebrate. You realize that time spent alone is not wasted. It's where you recharge, remember who you are, and reconnect with what you love most about life. This inner quiet is a precious gift, one that gets richer with age. And if you look back, you see that this change didn't happen all at once. It was a gradual unfolding, a gentle letting go of old expectations and outdated traditions. It took honesty, courage, and a willingness to put yourself first, maybe for the first time in your life. You begin to trust that your instincts are right, that it's okay to choose what fills you up rather than what's expected. If you find yourself wondering why you no longer want to attend every family party or visit every distant relative, know that you are not alone. This is the natural, beautiful result of learning to value your own time. It's the wisdom of recognizing that each hour is a gift and that you have earned the right to spend it in ways that bring you peace and happiness. Aging, in this sense, is not a loss, but a liberation. So, let the world spin as it will. Let others fill their days however they choose. You have discovered a deeper truth. That life's greatest richness is found not in how many places you go or how many people you see, but in how deeply you live, right here and right now, with the time you have. And that, perhaps, is the greatest freedom of all. Reason 3. Emotional drain. Somewhere along the winding road of life, you start to feel a subtle but powerful change inside yourself. It isn't just that your hair turns silver or your pace slows down, it's something much deeper. You begin to notice how much energy it takes to be around people, even those you once enjoyed. At first, it's easy to overlook. You tell yourself you're just tired, maybe having an off day. But as time goes on, you realize there's something else at work. Emotional honesty rather than antisocial behavior becomes your guiding star. You're not avoiding people because you dislike them. You're finally telling the truth to yourself about what your spirit can handle. For much of your life, you probably learned to put on a good face, even when you weren't feeling it. You'd go to family gatherings, community events, or church socials, smiling and laughing as if nothing weighed on you. That's what was expected. You tolerated small talk, gossip, and the little games people play because it was easier than making waves. But after 70, that low tolerance for emotional clutter and small talk comes roaring in. You just can't pretend anymore. The chit-chat that used to be harmless now feels suffocating. The repetition of old arguments, the endless retelling of family grievances, the talk that circles around and around. Suddenly, it all becomes too much. It's not that anything dramatic happens at these get-togethers. In fact, feeling depleted after shallow or meaningless interactions is often the hardest to describe to others. You might sit through an afternoon with relatives or neighbors, listening patiently as they recount stories or complain about life. Nothing overtly negative takes place, but as you leave, you feel strangely empty. There's no spring in your step, no warm glow from connecting. Instead, it's as if you've poured out your energy into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. By the time you get home, you want nothing more than to curl up in your favorite chair and be quiet with your thoughts. This is where emotional selectivity theory, focusing on emotionally meaningful relationships, begins to show itself. You realize that, as you age, your time and emotional resources are finite. There's no longer a need, or a reason, to keep giving yourself away to people and situations that don't fill you up. You find yourself craving fewer, deeper conversations rather than frequent, shallow ones. It's not about being antisocial. It's about being honest with yourself, respecting your limits, and refusing to sacrifice your emotional health for the sake of appearances. Sometimes, Others don't understand this change. They might accuse you of pulling away or losing your spark. But what's happening is that you've outgrown the need to perform for others. You're no longer willing to be the entertainer, the peacekeeper, or the sounding board for everyone else's complaints. You've spent a lifetime showing up, putting on a smile, and doing what was expected of you. Now, you're finally choosing to show up for yourself. Take Harold, for example, a retired teacher who spent his weekends visiting his extended family. Every Sunday, he'd make the rounds, stopping at his siblings' homes for coffee and cake. He'd listen as everyone talked over each other, shared their latest worries, and sometimes ignored his presence altogether. No one asked Harold how he was doing, and no one listened if he offered an answer. After a while, Harold started to feel like a piece of furniture, there, but unnoticed. One Sunday, as he drove home, he realized he felt worse than when he'd arrived. The visits, once a ritual of connection, had become exercises in loneliness. So, Harold stopped going. He started spending Sunday mornings gardening, reading, or walking with his closest friend, the one who always asked, "How are you?" For the first time in years, Harold felt emotionally grounded. This is what happens when solitude as nourishment takes root. You begin to realize that being alone isn't the same as being lonely. Solitude becomes a sanctuary, a space where you can rest, recharge, and reconnect with yourself. There's no need to explain or justify your silence. You find comfort in your own company and the peace that comes from simply being. Of course, these changes can be hard for others to accept. They may wonder why you no longer host the big holiday dinners, or why you turn down invitations to gatherings that you once attended without hesitation. The truth is, your priorities have shifted. You now value depth over frequency, preferring a single meaningful conversation over a dozen superficial ones. You might spend an hour on the phone with an old friend who makes you laugh, rather than a whole afternoon at a party where no one seems to see you. You also begin to notice the difference between people who genuinely care about you and those who simply want you to play a part in their own story. The friends and family members who respect your boundaries become even more precious. The rest, you let fall away with gratitude for the memories, but no regrets. The wisdom of this stage is knowing that you don't have to keep giving pieces of yourself to people who don't value them. Your energy, your time, and your heart are all finite, and you have the right to spend them where they matter most. You no longer feel guilty for saying no, for skipping an event, or for choosing yourself. This isn't selfishness, it's survival. And more than that, it's a celebration of the life you've built, the lessons you've learned, and the person you've become. You have earned the right to prioritize your emotional peace. You have earned the freedom to protect your inner world from the noise and clutter of meaningless interactions. You know now, in a way you couldn't have known before, that the real treasures of life are found in moments of honest connection, gentle solitude, and deep self-acceptance. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 2 below to let me know that you are still here with me. So, if you find yourself pulling back from social obligations, choosing quiet afternoons over crowded rooms, or feeling relieved when plans are canceled, trust that inner wisdom. It's not a sign that you're fading away. It's a sign that you're finally coming home to yourself. After a lifetime of giving, you're learning to receive. And in that gentle, powerful act, you discover that the best company you can keep is the kind that leaves you feeling whole. Reason 4. Physical energy. One of the quieter truths about aging, a truth few talk about, but everyone eventually encounters, is the way physical energy changes after 70. It doesn't happen overnight, and it doesn't mean you're weak or incapable. Rather, it's a gentle, persistent signal from your body, reminding you that you must start spending your energy more wisely. Outings feel like a full-day mission. What used to be a quick visit to a friend's house or an easy trip to the store now feels like preparing for a small expedition. You begin to notice it in the way your day unfolds. There was a time when you could say yes to a dozen things at once. A lunch date, an afternoon in the garden, a trip to the market, and still have the energy to call your children or play with the grandkids in the evening. These days, though, even a single outing, a doctor's appointment, a birthday lunch, or a visit with a neighbor, can take it all out of you. Sometimes, just the act of getting dressed, gathering your things, and heading out the door is enough to leave you needing to sit and rest for a while. Body's energy becomes a precious, limited resource. This is a lesson that's hard to accept for people who have spent a lifetime being busy, reliable, and strong. But after 70, your body asks for something different: respect. You can't run on the same kind of fuel you did at 40 or 50. You may wake up with good intentions and a hopeful list of things to do, but find your energy gone after just 1 or 2 tasks. Sometimes you'll wonder, why am I so tired? Did I do that much today? But this is simply the wisdom of your body speaking. It's telling you that your reserves are not infinite anymore, and you have to decide carefully where to spend them. Then there's recovery time after social visits increases. The price for a few hours out can be steep. You might come home from a friendly get-together only to realize you need the rest of the day, or even the next day, to recover. The muscles in your legs ache a little more, your joints remind you of old injuries, and your mind feels foggy. You start to weigh every invitation against the aftermath. Will this visit be worth the tiredness that follows? Will I regret pushing myself too far? Physical discomfort plays a bigger role than most people admit. Choosing rest and comfort over obligation becomes an act of self-preservation, not laziness. Hard chairs, long walks from the parking lot, stairs with shaky railings, or food that upsets your stomach, these details matter more than ever before. Once, you would have pushed through, ignoring the protests from your body to keep everyone happy. Now, you pause, assess, and sometimes choose the gentle option. Staying home with a good book, a warm cup of tea, or the company of your memories. From a psychological perspective, this is called embodied wisdom, body signals when enough is enough. It's the idea that your body knows things your mind might try to ignore. You begin to respect these signals, learning to listen rather than override them. There is a special kind of freedom that comes with finally saying, "I've done enough for today." It's not about giving up, it's about tuning in to yourself, to what you need, to what brings you peace. Take Barbara, age 78. She used to attend a weekly coffee get-together with a group of old friends. For years, it was a cherished routine: laughter, stories, a sense of belonging. But lately, even just the drive across town, finding parking, and walking into the noisy cafe felt like a marathon. Barbara would come home sore, exhausted, and sometimes irritable for hours afterward. Her friends missed her when she stopped coming every week. "We hardly see you anymore," they said. But Barbara learned to say, "I miss myself too, especially when I overdo it." She realized that forcing herself to attend every gathering didn't make her feel closer to her friends. Instead, she chose to meet with 1 or 2 at a time, in quieter, more comfortable settings, where she could truly enjoy their company and still honor her body's needs. Listening to what your body needs is a skill learned slowly and sometimes painfully. At first, it feels selfish, like you're letting others down. But with time, you understand that caring for your physical well-being is an act of love, for yourself and for those who care about you. By taking care of your own body, you make it possible to be present and joyful in the moments that matter. You also begin to notice how social energy and physical energy are linked. Quiet exhaustion that builds up after too much social energy is spent can creep up on you, turning a pleasant afternoon into a foggy evening. You find that saying yes to every invitation, every request for help, every family event, leaves you with nothing left for yourself. Slowly, you learn to choose rest over busyness, comfort over obligation, even solitude over company when that's what you need. Others might not always see or understand the hidden costs behind your decisions. Family members may worry, "Why doesn't Dad come around like he used to?" Or, "Why did Grandma leave the party so early?" But they don't see what it took for you to get there in the first place, or how long it might take for you to feel like yourself again afterward. What they see as absence, is simply wisdom in motion. You are learning to honor your boundaries, to use your energy where it brings the most joy, and to let go of the guilt that comes from doing less. After 70, there's a new kind of dignity that comes from honoring your physical limits. You no longer feel the need to prove how tough you are, how much you can endure, or how many miles you can travel in a single day. You discover the gentle power of choosing when to go, when to stay, and when to rest. In this way, each outing becomes a conscious choice, not a duty. And so, as you grow older, let your energy be your compass. Let it guide you toward comfort, peace, and the moments that truly matter. When you choose rest, you are choosing life. Not less of it, but more of the part that counts. That, in itself, is a kind of quiet triumph. Reason 5. Emotional economy. As we journey deeper into our 70s and beyond, a powerful truth begins to emerge. One that many never talk about openly but is deeply felt by those who have lived long enough to understand it. This truth is what some call emotional economy. It's the realization that your emotional energy is a finite resource, just like money in your bank account, and it deserves to be spent wisely. For decades, you may have been generous to a fault, giving your time, your attention, your love, often without expecting anything in return. But at this stage in life, you start to see the importance of understanding the value of emotional energy. You no longer want to invest your feelings in relationships or situations that leave you feeling empty, drained, or unseen. Think back on all those years when you tolerated negativity for the sake of peace. Maybe you smiled through hurtful comments at family dinners, bit your tongue to avoid arguments, or showed up at social events even when you were exhausted or feeling disrespected. You believed it was your role to keep the peace, to be agreeable, to hold the family together no matter the cost. But now, after 70, that mask begins to slip. The emotional battery that once seemed endless now recharges more slowly. Negative energy lingers longer, stress feels heavier, and the temptation to prove yourself or win approval fades away. It's liberating to finally say, I don't need this in my life anymore. This awakening leads to choosing peace over politeness. It's not about becoming cold or uncaring. It's about valuing your well-being enough to set boundaries that protect your heart. You might stop answering calls from a friend who always criticizes, or you might limit visits with a sibling who drains your spirit with endless complaints. You begin to recognize that some relationships, no matter how familiar, can be toxic, and that cutting back or stepping away is not betrayal, it's survival. At the same time, you start investing in relationships that bring warmth and respect. Those people who encourage you, listen without judgment, and bring joy to your life become precious treasures. You give your time and affection more selectively, focusing on mutual respect and genuine connection. You stop chasing those who never call back, and you stop explaining yourself to people who never truly understood you in the first place. Take Walter, an 82-year-old man who used to call his son every Sunday. These calls were tense, often ending in frustration. His son rarely asked how Walter was doing, instead rushing through the conversation or making snide remarks about Walter's choices. Eventually, Walter realized, this isn't love. This is duty. So he stopped calling, not to punish his son, but to protect himself. Slowly, he found peace. He began putting that same energy into a neighbor he bonded with over crossword puzzles and jazz music. This shift in Walter's life is a clear example of what emotional economy looks like. It's the freedom to protect your emotional well-being without apology. You realize you have a right and responsibility to protect your emotional well-being. This is not selfishness. It's earned wisdom. You've spent years being everything to everyone, and now it's time to be something vital to yourself. You no longer have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't need to chase love or convince anyone of your worth. You know who you are, what you offer, and what you will no longer tolerate. If you are still watching this video and find these lessons useful, please comment 3 below to let me know that you are still here with me. The clarity that comes with emotional economy is profound. You stop giving your energy to people who only bring chaos, and in that stillness, you rediscover parts of yourself buried under years of emotional obligation. You begin to breathe freely without guilt, drama, or noise. This is not a retreat from life, but a reclamation of it. Yet, this process can be lonely at times. It takes courage to let go of people and patterns that have been part of your life for decades. But the reward is immense, a life where your emotional energy is cherished, nurtured, and sustained. You become a gardener of your own heart, carefully weeding out toxicity so joy can grow. If you find yourself pulling away from old relationships or choosing solitude over social drama, know this: you are not withdrawing out of bitterness. You are investing in your peace, your own happiness, and your own survival. And in doing so, you are teaching others how to treat you, with respect, kindness, and love. This is the emotional wisdom that only comes with age. It's a gift that allows you to live your later years with dignity, grace, and a heart open to what truly matters. You've earned this peace, and you deserve to protect it. So, embrace your emotional economy. Spend your feelings on what uplifts you. Guard your heart as fiercely as you guard your health. And know that in doing so, you are choosing a richer, fuller life. One where every connection is meaningful and every moment is treasured. Reason 6. Self-respect awakening. As the years pass and you settle comfortably into your 70s and beyond, something quietly transformative begins to take shape inside you. It's an awakening, not loud or sudden, but deep and unmistakable. This is what I call the self-respect awakening. It's the moment when you stop asking for permission to value yourself, when the fear of disappointing others starts to fade, and a new, stronger instinct takes hold, the instinct to protect your dignity. For most of your life, you may have equated kindness with compliance. You went out of your way to help others, to smooth over conflicts, to make people feel comfortable, even when it meant shrinking your own needs or hiding your true feelings. You downplayed your successes so others wouldn't feel small. You said yes when you wanted to say no because the cost of disappointing someone seemed too high. But as you grow older, you start to see that the cost of betraying yourself is far greater. This awakening doesn't come with fireworks or dramatic moments. It often comes quietly, after one too many times of being overlooked, dismissed, or misunderstood. You might find yourself saying no to invitations that feel like obligations. You stop entertaining people who treat you like a backup plan. You walk away from conversations that drain your spirit. And slowly, you stop lowering your standards just to feel included. You realize something simple but powerful. Peace is more important than popularity. There is a quiet power in this realization, a dignity that shines through the way you hold yourself, the way you speak, and the way you set boundaries. It's not arrogance, it's earned self-respect. Consider Marilyn, a woman of 76 who spent most of her life as the one everyone called when they needed a favor. Babysitting grandkids, hosting holidays, lending money, organizing family events. She did it all, often at the expense of her health and happiness. But about a year ago, Marilyn made a decision. She politely declined the next big family gathering and instead took a quiet weekend at a lake by herself. Her daughter was shocked, worried that Marilyn was withdrawing. But Marilyn gently replied, "For once, I'm counting on me." That simple statement changed everything. Not only did Marilyn begin to honor her own needs, but her family also learned to respect her space. They saw that she was no longer the ever-available caretaker, but a person with boundaries and desires of her own. This shift improved their relationship. It brought clarity and mutual respect where before there had been expectation and obligation. This kind of self-respect awakening is not about shutting people out or becoming distant. It's about showing others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. When you stop begging for scraps of attention, People either rise to meet you or fall away. Either way, you win, because you're no longer depending on others to give you worth. You're standing firmly in it yourself. It's a beautiful kind of freedom to live without the constant need for approval. You come to understand that your value isn't measured by how much you do for others or how popular you are. It's measured by the peace you carry in your heart and the boundaries you maintain. You learn that self-love is not selfish, it's necessary. With this awakening, you start to make choices that reflect your true priorities. You no longer say yes out of obligation or guilt. You spend your time and energy on what nourishes your soul, not what drains it. You surround yourself with people who respect and cherish you, and you let go of those who don't. You may find that you're less tolerant of drama and more focused on the harmony that comes from honesty. You seek relationships where kindness is mutual, where your voice is heard, and your feelings are honored. This is not about perfection. It's about authenticity. The self-respect awakening also means embracing your worth, even if others don't recognize it. You learn to trust your judgment, to stand firm in your decisions, and to walk away when something doesn't feel right. You develop a quiet confidence that doesn't need to shout, but simply knows. At times, this process can be challenging. Old habits, family expectations, and cultural pressures may pull you back toward people-pleasing and self-sacrifice. But with each boundary you set and each no you speak, you strengthen your sense of self. In the end, this awakening is one of the greatest gifts of aging. It allows you to live your later years with dignity, grace, and peace. You no longer carry the heavy burden of needing to please everyone. Instead, you carry the lightness of knowing who you are and what you deserve. So if you find yourself stepping back from old roles and saying no more often, know that you are waking up to your true value. You are learning to honor yourself in a way that few dare to do. And in doing so, you are teaching those around you to do the same. This self-respect is your legacy, a beacon of strength and authenticity that shines brightly in your life and inspires others to find their path to peace. You've earned this awakening, and with it, a new chapter of freedom and joy. Reaching the age of 70 and beyond often brings changes we don't expect. Changes not just in our bodies, but in how we relate to the world around us. If you found yourself stepping back from social visits, choosing quiet mornings over loud gatherings, or simply feeling that your circle of close connections has grown smaller, know this. You are not alone, and you are not broken. What you are experiencing is a natural part of aging, a process of becoming more authentic, more selective, and more at peace with yourself. This stage of life strips away the noise and the obligations that no longer serve us, revealing what truly matters. It teaches us to protect our energy, both physical and emotional, and to invest it in the people and activities that uplift and nourish us. Sometimes that means saying no, sometimes it means embracing solitude, and sometimes it means redefining relationships with a new sense of clarity and self-respect. This is not giving up. It's growing up gracefully. As you listen to these truths, I encourage you to reflect on your own life. What changes have you noticed in how you spend your time and energy? What boundaries have you set or want to set to protect your peace? Please share one thing you've learned today in the comments below and how you plan to bring it into your life. Your stories and insights are important. They inspire and encourage others walking this path with you. If you found this video helpful, please like it, share it with your friends and family, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell. Your support helps us continue creating content that informs, uplifts, and inspires. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.